Welcome to This Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today. You know, right now, at this very second, without you even consciously realizing it, your brain is lighting up like a giant control room. We're talking about billions of neurons firing across these incredibly complex networks, literally performing billions of operations. You're seeing, hearing, thinking, and making sense of my words all in a fraction of a second. But have you ever actually stopped to wonder how the internal mechanics of your own mind really work?
I mean, think about it. Why do we forget names? It's one of those everyday frustrations we all share, right? Why is it that someone can walk right up, introduce themselves to you, look you dead in the eye, and literally 3 seconds later, their name has completely vanished from your mind, leaving you to just call them buddy for the rest of the year? Or, on the flip side, why on earth do we remember some super embarrassing moment from a decade ago with absolute crystal clear precision?
Okay, let's dive into this. Why do our brains sometimes just flat out trick us? The mysteries go way deeper than just forgotten names. Why do we frequently make terrible decisions, even when we absolutely know better? Why do our own brains create these wild illusions? Well, these aren't just random goofy quirks of being human. There is actual, hard science behind all of this.
And that science is cognitive psychology. It's the dedicated scientific study of exactly how humans think, learn, remember, solve problems, make decisions, and pay attention. Cognitive psychology actually holds the answers to all those everyday mysteries we just talked about. So today, it's going to be our guide as we take this really exclusive, behind-the-scenes tour directly inside your own mind.
Section 1. Meet your brain's supercomputer.
And this brilliantly illustrates the idea that it really helps to think of your brain as the ultimate supercomputer. It's constantly processing data, managing language, and, keeping you alive. But unlike a machine, your brain is wonderfully imperfect. It makes mistakes, it drops data, it creates illusions. So to deal with its own limitations, the brain uses selective attention. Attention isn't this massive floodlight that illuminates everything around you. It's a highly concentrated spotlight. Because every single second, your senses are just bombarded with millions of pieces of information. Your brain simply can't process all of that without crashing, so it has to make a choice. So here's how that filtering process actually plays out. First, your senses receive those millions of inputs, but then your brain aims its spotlight on just one specific thing. Step 3 is absolutely crucial. Everything else in the darkness is entirely ignored. Literally, whatever the spotlight shines on becomes your reality. This is exactly why you can be super engrossed in reading a great book and completely fail to hear someone shouting your name from across the room. Your brain just deleted the sound to keep the spotlight steady.
Section 2. Inside the memory library.
We all tend to think of memory as this massive, perfect video archive where we can just hit play on our past. But honestly, your brain doesn't record perfectly at all. It's actually kind of scary. But through a process called reconsolidation, your brain actively rebuilds and slightly rewrites your memories every single time you retrieve them.
Let's move to and see how this builds across the entire lifespan of a memory. Psychologists divide this into 3 distinct types. First up, you have sensory memory, which literally holds information for mere seconds. Then comes short-term memory, keeping data around for a few minutes. And finally, long-term memory, which can store things for years. But remember, because your brain changes a memory slightly every single time you pull it from this timeline, some of your absolute most cherished memories might not be completely accurate. Your mind is constantly, quietly rewriting your own story.
Which brings us to the stuff we drop entirely. We usually view forgetting someone's name or losing our car keys as this major flaw. But think about it. If you remembered every single second of your life, you'd suffer a massive cognitive overload. Your brain doesn't forget because it's broken. It forgets because it's incredibly efficient. It has to clear out the clutter to keep you functioning.
Section 3. When your mind tricks you. Every day, you're navigating this crazy maze of hundreds of problems, from simple little puzzles to massive, life-changing dilemmas. To get through the maze, your brain uses logic, patterns, and past experience. But here's the catch. Calculating the absolute perfect answer takes a massive amount of mental energy. So to conserve fuel, your brain relies on these mental shortcuts called heuristics. It heavily prefers quick answers over correct answers, which is exactly why we so often jump to completely wrong conclusions.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how these heuristics, which we call cognitive biases, actually operate in the real world to trick us. Take confirmation bias, for instance. That's our tendency to only shine our spotlight on information that already agrees with what we believe. Or the halo effect, where our brain just randomly jumps to the conclusion that a physically attractive person must automatically be smarter.
or availability bias, where we genuinely believe an event is super common just because we recently heard a news story about it. These are all tricks your brain uses just to save mental bandwidth, but they often lead us to make terrible decisions.
Section 4. The hidden power of emotion.
Leaving the realm of pure logic, we enter a highly volatile space. We all absolutely love to picture ourselves as perfectly rational creatures, making our choices based on pure, unadulterated logic. But the reality? It's vastly different. Anger, sadness, and fear secretly influence nearly every choice we make. When you're afraid, your brain hyperfocuses on danger. When you're sad, the whole world looks fundamentally different. So many decisions that feel completely logical to you are actually just emotional decisions wearing a really clever disguise. And you're making a staggering amount of these choices. We're talking thousands a day, from what to wear to what to eat for lunch to exactly how to phrase a response to an email. And every single one of those choices drains precious mental energy, leading to what psychologists call decision fatigue. And because of that immense energy drain, we run right into the paradox of choice. We always think we want maximum freedom and endless options, but having more choices actually creates stress, regret, and a ton of overthinking. Because the human brain fundamentally craves simplicity to save its energy, having fewer choices actually leads to better lives and increased happiness.
Section 5. How thoughts shape reality.
This is where we finally see how all of your internal mechanics, your attention, your memories, your biases, and your emotions actually project outward to create the real physical world you live in. It follows a direct chain reaction. A simple thought pops into your head, that thought triggers an emotion, that emotion dictates your action, and those actions build your future. The whole shebang starts with just a single thought.
So the crucial point is that your experience of life comes down entirely to how you interpret an event, not the event itself. Literally, two people can stand side by side, experience the exact same situation, and walk away with two completely different realities. Why? Because their internal spotlights were focused on entirely different things, which triggered entirely different emotions. Remember, your brain is locked inside a dark skull. It doesn't actually know what is happening out there in the world. It only knows what you tell it is happening. Changing the way you think and changing how you interpret the world around you literally changes the physical reality of your life. Your brain is arguably the most complex object in the known universe. It builds your dreams, it feels your emotions, and it creates the person you call you. Cognitive psychology isn't just about understanding some dry scientific concept. It is absolutely about understanding yourself. Because once you learn how your mind creates your reality, you have the ultimate power to change your life. Which leaves us with one final, pretty wild question to think about. If your brain is constantly rewriting your past and filtering your present, whose reality are you actually living right now? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. I'll see you next time.